And so the project centers on Langmuir circulation and the formation of oil particle aggregates. And so OPAs, or oil particle aggregates, are generated when you have sediments mixing with oil droplets. And so the mixing will, if the mixing is strong enough, it will cause some of the sediment particles to adhere to the surface of the oil droplets, giving rise to the OPAs, or the oil particle aggregates. And the Langmuir circulation consists of parallel counter-rotating vortices roughly aligned in the direction of the wind. And these are generated by the interaction between the waves, especially the Stokes drift shear induced by the waves, with the shear induced by the wind-driven current. And so the goal of the project is to focus in and understand the dynamics by which these Langmuir cells can promote the mixing between sediments and oil droplets, and ultimately the formation of these oil particle aggregates. And one type of Langmuir cells that we're interested in occurs in coastal regions in about 10 meters to 30 meters deep. And there the Langmuir cells, under strong wind and wave forcing conditions, like during the passage of storms, these cells can extend all the way to the bottom of the water column, engulf the entire water column. And so these cells are referred to as Langmuir supercells. So in the project, we're saying that these Langmuir supercells can move the oil droplets from the surface, can move the sediments from the bottom, bring them together, and cause the formation of the OPAs, or oil particle aggregates. Yeah, so with Michel Boufadel at NGIT, we've been able to create a model that can resolve the Langmuir supercells and also can resolve the particle tracks induced by the Langmuir supercells. So now with the model, we're able to see the motions of the sediments and the motions of the oil droplets caused by the Langmuir cells. And one key finding that we've seen in the simulations is that the cells will accumulate the oil droplets at the surface convergence of the cells. And then for the lighter sediments, the Langmuir supercells can actually transport these lighter sediments all the way to the surface and pass them or filter them through these surface convergence zones where we have the oil droplets being accumulated. And also a key finding is that it is at the surface convergence of the cells that we get the highest, or the elevated values of turbulent kinetic energy. So that means that there's high values or high levels of mixing, that then when these sediments get transported through this surface convergence zone, meeting with the oil droplets, there's high enough mixing going on at that particular location that you can get the strong formation, or the significant formation of the OPAs. So that one key aspect of our findings so far is that we have been able to show how the dynamics occur, or how the Langmuir supercells promote the formation of the oil particle aggregates. And so next we're going to do we're doing laboratory experiments where we already, with David Murphy, we've already have a Langmuir circulation tank in the lab. It's about 3 meters wide, 2 or 3 meters high. And there he has been able to represent or look at the cell patterns. And so next we're going to start injecting oil droplets and sediments into the tank to see the motions of the sediments and the oil droplets in the laboratory. And so the goal is to hopefully corroborate what we've seen in the computations so far. But also in the laboratory, we'll be able to predict how much OPA formation we get. Because in the computations are just telling us the motions of the sediments and the oil droplets, but they don't tell us how much OPA forming there is. But with the laboratory tank experiment, we'll be able to actually see how much OPA formation we're getting at those surface convergence of the cells. And also we have some recent field experiments or measurements from Arnaldo Valle Levinson at University of Florida, and he's been able to measure these Langmuir supercells in the field in 2 locations, one at 20 meters deep and another one in 15 meters deep. He's using ADCPs, or acoustic current Doppler profilers. And he's been able to measure several. He did a 3-week campaign of the measurements, and he was able to get several episodes of these Langmuir supercells. They're typically between 10 and 12 hours, between 10 and 24 hours long. So overall, with this project, we will be able to then present a new mechanism how these oil particle aggregate formations are occurring, and in particular predict how much of the oil gets trapped in the sediments and perhaps get submerged in locations where we have these Langmuir supercells. And so typically the Langmuir supercells occur in the surf-shelf transition zone, which is further away from the surf zone. Typically the OPAs have been found in the near shore where the oil and the sediments come in real close contact to each other. But now we're saying, oh, there's a possibility that these oil and sediments can get mixed further away in the surf-shelf transition zone where these Langmuir cells or these Langmuir supercells can occur. So from the findings that or the knowledge that we can gain, this is specifically aimed at eventually helping to improve the oil spill tracking models, because then with the information that we can provide, we would then be able to improve these models by helping them to account for the formation of OPAs by this process of the Langmuir supercells and the turbulence associated with it. And so a model of that capability of predicting the OPA formation induced by Langmuir supercells could then predict how much OPAs get formed in the surf-shelf transition zone due to the Langmuir supercells and get trapped there and submerged in that zone versus how much of that oil makes it to the shore.